Okay, so the very first, we will cover this first. Somebody has shared this. I'll go through this and then we will talk about something else. Okay. So generally they ask what is the difference between software development life cycle and software testing life cycle. So let's understand software development life cycle is for the complete software development process, right? Where there are different phases which is related to developing a software, right? From it starts from requirement understanding, analyzing it, then proper designing part, high level design, low level design, and then there will be like implementation, coding, then testing, deployment, delivery, maintenance. Those things are called will come under software development life cycle, whereas software testing life cycle related to purely on the testing side, which supports SDLC. It's like this, which is actually supporting SDLC parallelly. So when we say there is, so if with every phase, there is a testing phase also included into that, right? So that is how STLC works. Okay, you can read about these things also. Maybe I'll share this PPT later on. And this is a picture. You should know how software development lifecycle works and how software testing lifecycle works. Okay, but STLC is part of SDLC itself, right? Nowadays, when we are following agile development model, software testing lifecycle is part of STLC. Means software testing lifecycle is part of SDLC, software development lifecycle itself. Okay. Now, what are the different level of software testing? So generally, when levels, they ask you the level. In the lowest level, unit testing comes, right? And this, if you see, unit test cases are more, right? Once you go up in the level, the number of test cases will be reduced, right? It will be less. The unit tests are closely, coupled with the development code itself, right? So it checks the dev code itself, the smallest unit it check, right? So that's why the name is unit testing, generally done by developers. Then integration testing, and integration is integration of those units, right? And then checking it whether different modules or units are working fine or not. System testing, generally we do it, right? Checking all the functionalities. We do non-functional check also, right? That is done by tester. Acceptance testing, generally done by the either by the user or the business analyst to check whether the real business requirements are met or not. Okay. If you have any question in between, put it into the chat window. If you want to know more about a particular topic, I'll cover that. Explain the steps that the defect goes through from discovery to resolution. So generally they ask what is like defect life cycle, right? Or how, and this is a very important question. This is generally asked, right? It can be asked to any person who is appearing on QA interview or test engineer interview. It can be asked to any candidate, whether they are fresher or experienced professional. This question is very important. Okay. So generally, when a defect is coming, we say it's a new status, right? Then it goes to the assigned status, right? Somebody will be assigned to resolve it, right? Or open status. So assigned, when it is assigned, it is open also. Then it will get fixed. Then we will retest it and we will close it. So it's a simple flow, positive flow, how a defect will be resolved, right? But once it is assigned, it can be rejected also. Rejection means, okay, this kind of defect is not valid and we are rejecting it, right? Maybe because of it is duplicate, or maybe we are deferring it as of now. Deferred means we can resolve it maybe later on, but now it's a low priority, right? Or somebody can, reopen it, or even if it is fixed, then also it can be reopened. So understand about it. Read more about these things. You will get more information about these things. Okay. Then, so this is software development life cycle. At the right hand side also, it is same thing. What I'm saying, it is discussed here also. Okay. Then the next question is, what is the difference between a test case and a test scenario? So this is a very common question. The test scenario is defined as any functionality that can be tested. It is also called test condition or test possibilities. So there is a scenario by which there are different test cases can be generated, right? So for example, test the login functionality. This is just a scenario, checking the login functionality. But test cases is a set of real actions which you will be writing the steps, and it will be performed one by one, and then you come to a conclusion that, okay, I want to check some expected behavior and the actual behavior, right? Those will be called test cases. Okay. So test scenarios can be tested with more than one test cases. So to check login functionality, there may be, five uh, positive flow, two negative flow, right? Negative test cases. It's possible. So for one scenario, there may be more than one test cases can be made. It's possible. Okay. Next one. What is the difference between functional and non-functional testing? Right? So we should understand what is functional testing, what is non-functional testing. So functional testings are related to checking the requirement, the real feature of an application. Okay, how this system should behave, how when user will interact, what kind of response it will show you, what kind of result, what kind of in the user interface, if you are checking what should be visible, right? Those kind of things are functional testing, whereas non-functional check are related to non-functional aspects. For example, checking the performance, checking the usability, reliability, those things. Okay, so it's a different thing. Functional and non-functional both are two different things. And generally, there are experts who do functional testing, and then there are experts who do performance testing and other, usability or accessibility testing. Okay. But as a test engineer, we should know both things. We should be good at both the things. Okay, and there are some examples. When we say functional testing, we are checking whether login functionality is working perfectly fine or not. User is able to log in, those kind of, or user is able to see the dashboard or the home page. That is actually functional testing. Whereas non-functional testing will be like, let's say, if you are checking when the 100 users logged in, how much time it is taking, in the login, right? So that you're checking performance of the system. That's an example. What is the difference between verification and validation? What is the difference between verification and validation? Let's understand that part. Both are different things. Verification is you are checking without executing the software code. That's the main difference. You are verifying something without executing the software code. Means you are not, you're not like running it, some application and checking it. It's like behind the scene what you do, it's verification. Okay. So you do walkthrough, inspection, walkthrough of the code, peer review. Those things are verification. Whereas validation is by executing the software code. Means you are actually executing the test cases. Those are called validation. Okay. Validating the final end product, like developed software or service or system is working fine or not, that is called validation. So there are technique, right? Functional testing, system testing, those comes under validation. Whereas when you do review, inspection, that is called verification. This is more of related to static testing. Verification is more of related to static testing, right? Whereas validation is more of non-static kind of this testing. It's a dynamic testing, right? Okay, you can check, uh, one thing in different ways, right? That is like validation. Let's see this now. Next question is, what should we start testing? When should we start testing in our project? So the answer is as early as possible. If somebody asks you when you start testing, so you should not say once we get the development code, we start testing. It's not like this actually. The answer should be we should start the testing as soon as possible in the software development life cycle or early in the software development life cycle, because you check the requirement also. That is also a kind of testing. When you read the requirement and you are checking with your business analyst or the product people, that understanding those requirement, in a way you are testing it already. Okay, so early you do the testing, you save the time and money. Okay. Um, if you don't have the clear written user requirement, how can we test the software? That may be a question. Okay. So if somebody asks you that you do not have user requirement as of now, the clearly written user requirement, how you can start the testing? Right? So the answer is okay, if it is very important to do it. So whatever little documentation um, you have, right, understand it clearly, right, and understand um, the current version of the application, right, and what is expected, the least expected thing to be tested, understand those things. But talk with other project members. Maybe they can explain you better based on their experience, right? And use exploratory testing. So exploratory testing is when you check different flows, right? Exploring the application itself, and while exploring, you are testing also, right? So generally, this is a tricky question. If this question is asked to the um, fresher or 0 to 2 year experience person, the answer will be like this. But if they will ask you like the experienced people, more than 4 year experience, then actually you should say no. I will try my best to get the requirement first, right? Because they are expecting you to, check whether you want to go into detail or not, whether you escalate, how much is your escalation power, right? The skills. Generally, if the requirements are not clear, right, you should directly connect to the business analyst or subject matter expert or the product owner that, see, this is where our requirements are not clear. So how we can test it, right? So you should show your leadership skill in that way. It's like this. Question number 9, what is exploratory testing? Why do we use it? So the thing is, exploratory testing is it's not mandatory, first of all, right? It's not like that you have to perform it, right? But the thing is, if you get time or when you don't have clearly written test cases, right, then also you can perform exploratory testing. So exploratory testing is an approach to software testing that is concisely described as simultaneous learning, test design, and test execution. You are doing, all the things when you are actually, running your application and checking it, right? Without writing any test cases. So in exploratory testing, you are not following a pre-written test cases. You are doing based on your experience or whatever you are seeing in the application, you are just checking some flows, right? But you should have basic knowledge. It's not like that you are doing random things. No, no. You should have a good knowledge about the application, right? Then the exploratory testing will be successful. Okay. So when we do it, when we don't have much time to design the test cases, then you can perform exploratory testing. Or when you have poor requirements, then also you can do it exploratory testing. Both the things, right? Third point I would like to add is when you have time. So for example, you have executed all your test cases, but now you have time, extra time. Then you should utilize your time to do exploratory testing, right? And it's not like that exploratory testing should be done by the experienced people or only, right? That's not the case. Generally people say that exploratory testing should be done by the experienced people or the team lead only. It's not like that, guys. Exploratory testing anybody can do, but basic knowledge of the application or the product somebody should have. In fact, the new people or the new joining, right? They will be good tester if they are doing exploratory testing. They can find some new bugs. Okay. A defect which could have been removed during the initial stage is removed in later stage. How does this affect the cost, right? So basic question is if the defect is encountered later on, right? You are not finding the defect at the time of requirement gathering or at the time of reviewing your own test cases or at the time of understanding the user interface. Later on, if you are getting those defects, maybe in stage, you know regression cycle, or maybe when you get it in the production, right? So what will be the impact, what will be the cost of resolving it, right? So let's understand, the later you found the later you found the defect, the cost will be high to resolve it, right? Because um, once is in production, right, and then you are resolving it, then you have to do a lot of effort, like when it has come, right, from the development perspective also. So as a team you have to think, it's not just about the testing part, it's about when a defect is coming at the production, right? Then first thing is, um, your customer, you know they will get angry, or there is a reliability issue will come, right? The more production defect you have, your client will be dissatisfied with you, correct? That is one thing. Second thing is, it's difficult, then once you get the production defect, it's difficult to backtrack that, okay, where was the issue, right? So it also takes time, and then you have to get a new deployment, and then you have to do the whole regression check. Your other work will be stopped, right? So whatever the current task you are doing, right, you have to stop it and work on the production defect. So in a way it's costly, right? Because you are stopping your current work, the whatever you were doing, right? So it, and all the people, like developers also has to stop their usual work, whatever they are doing in the sprint, and then they have to resolve whatever has come as a new production defect. Okay. So it's a cost in that way. It's very costly to resolve the defects which are coming at later stage. Okay. But understand it, like this is just an example. It's not the real number of like cost and the or the number of days or whatever it's there. The thing is, if you get the requirement defects, you get a defect in the requirement itself, it is resolved within 1 day, then and there, right? But then when you're getting some defect at the testing stage, then you will discuss it, the developer will work on it, they will give you a new build, you will retest it, you will do some regression check also. That will take 2 to 3 days. It may take or more than that. So the number of days, if it is more, it's obviously more costlier. Okay. In that way, we are talking about the cost of resolving a defect. What is change related testing? What is the difference between confirmation testing and regression testing? Both are different things. Confirmation is you are retesting something that, okay, now the thing is working fine. Whereas regression testing is like you you're testing, the other things, whether those things are impacted or not. The thing is, you get a defect fix, let's say, or some changes in the application, but then you are checking all other existing thing should work fine, right? Even if there is a change, the existing thing should work, you know, perfectly fine. So that is regression check. Okay. Whereas retesting is checking a single thing, whether it's working fine or not. Impact analysis is used to know how much regression testing will be required. Yes. Next. What is the difference between black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing? So, white box testing is a software testing method in which the internal structure, design, implementation of the item being tested is not known to the tester. So, you are testing the application, like functionality of the application, without knowing how the code is written, where is the if else structure is there, how the exception handling is there, right? You don't know anything and you don't worry about it. You are just testing a system as user, you know, is if a real user is interacting with the system, right? In that way, you are testing it. So that is black box testing. Whereas white box testing is when you know the internal structure and then you decide, okay, now I will test it in this particular way, right? So that I'll find more bugs. So you know the internal structure, you know the code, how it is written, you know the design, you know how the database is interacted with the application, right? So now, if you know that thing and now you are doing the testing, that is called white box testing, right? And the way you write the test cases will be different, right? In white box testing, it's not same as white box testing. It's not same as the black box testing. Both are different kind of test cases will be there. Gray box testing is a software testing technique to test a software product or application with partial knowledge of internal structure of the application. The purpose of gray box testing is to search and identify the defects due to improper code structure or improper use of application. Okay, so that kind of testing will be called gray box testing. So it's a mix of black box plus white box is called gray box testing, but you have to explain it in a better way. Okay, that's the first part.